Your dominant Enneagram type does not change throughout your life, but the way that you express that core motivation often does. Now, we grow, of course, between our young adulthood and our later adulthood, between our teenage years and our early adult years. We're constantly encountering challenges and we're learning to cope with the world better. We're finding where maybe our personality is causing problems for us and we're working on those things, right? And so we go to therapy, we notice things, whether it's at work or in relationships that is not working for other people or not helping us along the way, and we work on those things, right? That's one reason that the same motivation might be at play for your entire life, but obviously you don't behave the same way now that you did in your early 20s. We also develop coping mechanisms and masks and adaptations based on our environment and our roles. And so actually different stages of life might have you encountering different challenges and bring out different behaviors. And so the way we behave absolutely changes over time, but that core motivation that's in the driver's seat is either in the driver's seat more or less. Maybe you get into the driver's seat and you build some awareness and some regulation skills around those things, or the way that it's expressed changes because your circumstances have changed. So context really matters also here. When people say, I'm this type at home and I'm this type at work, sometimes it's because our relationships at home, whether it's a spouse and kids or parents or siblings or whatever, can be a lot more high stakes than relationships at work. Obviously, work is really important and security is important. However, we get most reactive with the people that matter the most to us. And we feel the threats of what we're trying to cope with. If we feel a threat of disconnection from someone that is a life partner, we're going to react much differently than if we feel a threat of disconnection from a casual friend that you just met a couple of months ago. And so thinking about how stress and safety and power dynamics even can play a role where they might amplify or kind of mute certain ways that we behave, whether it's at home or at school or in our partnerships or in our friendships. And so where the stakes are the highest is where you're often going to see the most reactivity. And that will be different for everybody. Some people, the highest stakes might be keeping a job and keeping that financial security. And some people, the highest stakes might be in their kind of primary relationships. So just a quick note on wings and arrows. These are things that I get asked about a lot. And what I would say is there are ways to look at how we move around the Enneagram. Sometimes we'll have what's called a wing, which different kind of schools of thought on this have different opinions, that the type on either side of our type, so I'm a type 3, so the type 2 or the type 4 would be possible wings for me. What that really means is if I said I'm a 3 wing 2, I'm a 3 with shades of 2 in it. And I see some of the 2-ness in me. But really at the end of the day, it's probably the way I'm expressing my type 3. But sometimes it's helpful for people to look at what's on either side of your type. And then the arrows that you sometimes see on an Enneagram diagram show how types are connected. And sometimes these are called stress and growth arrows, where maybe you move toward the behaviors of a certain type when you're thriving, when you're doing really well in your life stage. And sometimes you might move toward the behaviors of another type when you're in a lot of stress, in a really difficult situation, or things are really not going well. All of those things are maybe fun to look at, but I would say that's definitely not where I would encourage someone to focus first. Always, always, always think about your dominant type and get to an accurate type first and really work within that type. Now, there's also something called tri-types where people say you have a type in each of the centers. You have 1 in the heart center, 2, 3, 4, 1 in the head center, 5, 6, 7, and 1 in the body center, 8, 9, and 1. And so you have this tri-type, and I don't really subscribe to that theory. The other thing, though, is I think a really important and interesting one. It's called subtypes. So this combines our type with a dominant instinct. And there are 3 core instincts that kind of help us survive that we lean on. Every single person leans on all three of these instincts, but we kind of have a certain stack of which ones developed as the most important ones, or the ones that we really protect first. Now, this is incredibly important, and it can help you discern your type if maybe you're having a tough time figuring it out, and overlaying the instinct with the type can kind of show different ways that the type can be expressed. That being said, I would probably not look into this until you've been exploring your type for a little while, or you feel like you have a pretty good understanding of your type. And most people really just need to observe themselves and get honest about who they are and some ideas about who you want to be to find your type. It's about honest reflection and observation and just spending some time with it.